The median American household earned $74,640 in 2023. That number gets published every year by the Census Bureau, gets quoted in 1,000 articles, and tells you absolutely nothing useful about whether you're winning or losing the money game. A 30-year-old earning $60,000 might be building generational wealth, while their neighbor earning $90,000 is drowning. Same city, same cost of living, wildly different trajectories. According to a 2024 Federal Reserve study, 47% of Americans earning above the median income for their age group reported they couldn't cover a $400 emergency without borrowing or selling something. They're making what the charts say they should make, following the advice about career progression and salary negotiation, and still living in a state of permanent financial fragility. The income benchmarks everyone obsesses over measure the wrong thing entirely. They track what you earn, not what you keep. They compare you to averages that include people making catastrophic financial decisions and people who structured their entire lives around tax optimization. And that measurement failure costs the average household roughly $328,000 over a working lifetime, according to 2025 research from the National Bureau of Economic Research. Which raises a question nobody wants to ask. If income comparisons are fundamentally misleading, who benefits from keeping everyone focused on them? Here's the trap built into every income benchmark article and salary survey. They condition you to evaluate your financial health based on a single variable: gross income. What's the average salary for a 35-year-old? What should a software engineer make in Austin? How much do people in your profession earn? The entire framing assumes income is the scorecard. But income is just one input in a system with dozens of variables that matter more. A person earning $70,000 with no debt, low fixed costs, and automatic savings is in a completely different financial position than someone earning $120,000 with student loans, a car payment, a mortgage at the top of their budget, and lifestyle creep that consumed every raise they ever got. The first person has optionality. The second person has an income fragility trap disguised as success. This isn't theoretical hand-wringing. A 2024 study from the J.P. Morgan Chase Institute analyzed checking account data from 8.5 million families and found that households in the top income quintile had a median liquid savings buffer of only 29 days of expenses. Top 20% of earners, less than 1 month of runway. Meanwhile, 15% of households in the bottom 40% of income had more than 3 months saved. Higher income didn't predict financial resilience. It predicted higher fixed costs and consumption patterns that scaled with every dollar earned. The system is designed to make you feel like the problem is your income level, when the actual problem is that every institution profits from you spending at the edge of your means regardless of what you make. Think of income benchmarks like comparing marathon times without knowing the terrain. Someone who finished in 4 hours on a flat course and someone who finished in 4 hours at altitude through mountains both have the same time, but they're not comparable performances. Income is the time. Your debt load, tax efficiency, fixed costs, geographic cost of living, family obligations, health expenses. These are the terrain. Comparing your gross income to national averages is like comparing times without knowing if you're running uphill or down. It's a measurement that creates the illusion of objectivity while hiding every variable that actually determines the outcome. And here's why institutions love this framing. Companies want you focused on salary because it keeps you competing for raises within their structure, instead of questioning whether employment itself is the optimal path. Consumer brands want you focused on income because it segments you into marketing, demographics, and spending targets. Banks want you focused on income because it's how they qualify you for debt products. The financial media wants you focused on income because it generates clicks and comparison anxiety. Everyone profits from you treating your earnings as the scoreboard except you, because earnings without a strategy for keeping and deploying them just makes you a more valuable customer to extract from. According to a 2023 Pew Research analysis, 68% of Americans said they felt behind financially compared to where they thought they should be at their age. Not compared to objective need, compared to a mental benchmark they'd absorbed from media, peers, and cultural messaging about what success looks like. The dissatisfaction isn't coming from material deprivation. It's coming from comparing themselves to averages that don't account for structural differences and then feeling inadequate when the comparison doesn't validate them. You're not broken for feeling behind. The system is designed to make you feel inadequate, so you'll keep chasing income increases while ignoring the mechanics that actually build wealth. But here's what nobody mentions when they publish those age and income charts. The gap between high earners who build wealth and high earners who stay trapped isn't about the income. It's about what happens in the 72 hours after the paycheck hits. If you're starting to see that income benchmarks are designed to keep you focused on the wrong metric entirely, you're seeing what I try to break down every single week. How the mechanics actually work underneath the marketing layer. Subscribe if you want to catch the next breakdown, because these patterns show up everywhere once you know what to look for. My name is Charles, and I'm obsessed with how money actually works. Not the sanitized version institutions sell you, but the mechanical truth underneath. Clear disclaimer before we continue. This is education and entertainment only, not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Consult qualified professionals before making financial decisions. So let's talk about how income actually interacts with wealth accumulation, because the relationship is nonlinear and nobody explains the inflection points. The intuitive model is simple and wrong. More income equals more wealth. Linear scaling. If someone makes twice as much, they should accumulate wealth twice as fast. But that's not how it works in practice because of what economists call consumption smoothing and what I call lifestyle escalation mechanics. As income rises, fixed costs and expected consumption rise with it, often faster than the income growth itself. The person making $150,000 doesn't just spend a little more than the person making $75,000. They live in a more expensive neighborhood, drive a newer car, take different vacations, send their kids to different schools, maintain different social expectations. Each of those decisions locks in higher ongoing costs that persist regardless of future income changes. Here's the mechanical problem. Wealth is the gap between what you earn and what you spend, multiplied by time and return. It's not the absolute dollars earned, it's the spread. A person earning $60,000 and spending $45,000 has a $15,000 annual spread. At a 7% return over 30 years, that becomes $1.4 million. A person earning $120,000 and spending $110,000 has a $10,000 annual spread. Same return, same timeline, they end up with $950,000. The person who earned half as much dies with 50% more wealth because the spread was wider despite the lower income. This isn't a hypothetical edge case. According to the 2024 Vanguard How America Saves report, participants in the lowest income quartile who maximized their employer match had higher account balances after 20 years than participants in the highest income quartile who contributed the minimum. Lower earnings, better outcomes, because the behavior delta overwhelmed the income delta. Now add in tax efficiency and the distortion gets even more pronounced. A married couple earning $80,000 with $15,000 in a Roth 401k and $5,000 in an HSA is sheltering $20,000 from taxation. Their effective income for wealth building is actually higher than someone earning $110,000 who's putting everything in a traditional 401k and paying tax on distributions later, plus Medicare surcharges. The person with a smaller paycheck structures their savings to keep more of every dollar. The person with the bigger paycheck optimizes for the number on their W-2 without thinking about net effective lifetime earnings after all the systems take their cut. Warren Buffett said it clearly. It's not how much money you make, but how much money you keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for. Most people hear that quote and think it's about investment returns. It's not. It's about the spread between earning and spending, and then the discipline to let compounding do the work without interference. Buffett's wealth didn't come from earning the highest salary in Omaha. It came from keeping his living costs absurdly low relative to his income starting in his 20s, investing the spread, and then leaving it alone for 70 years. The income comparisons are a distraction from the only metric that actually matters. Are you generating a spread? And are you investing it in assets that compound? The institutional incentive structure is designed to prevent you from seeing this. Employers emphasize salary because it's how they attract talent, and it's a cost they can budget. They don't emphasize total lifetime wealth accumulation because that would require them to teach financial literacy, tax strategy, and long-term planning, none of which scale across a workforce. Consumer culture emphasizes income because higher earners are more valuable customers. A person making $150,000 will finance a luxury car and carry a mortgage at the top of their approval range. A person making $70,000 living like they make $45,000 won't. The financial services industry emphasizes income because it's how they qualify you for products. Your debt-to-income ratio determines how much they can lend you, and lending is where the profit lives. Nobody's incentive structure prioritizes teaching you to widen the spread and invest it. The entire economy is optimized for you to spend at the edge of your capacity, regardless of what that capacity is. But here's where the math collides with reality, and the theoretical spread becomes actual wealth, or actual fragility. Let's start with the straightforward calculation. If you save 15% of your gross income starting at age 25 and invest it at a 7% average annual return, you'll have roughly 10 times your final salary saved by age 65. So if you're earning $80,000 at retirement, you'd have around $800,000. If you're earning $120,000, you'd have $1.2 million. That's the simple version financial calculators give you. But it assumes your savings rate stays constant as your income rises, which almost never happens. According to a 2024 Employee Benefit Research Institute analysis, the average American increases their retirement contribution rate by only 0.3% per year, even when their income grows by 3 to 4% annually. The rest gets absorbed into lifestyle expansion. The math says save more as you earn more. Human behavior says spend more as you earn more and keep the savings rate flat or let it drift down. Let's walk through what this looks like in practice. Imagine someone who starts their career at 25 making $45,000. They're contributing 6% to their 401k to get the company match. That's $2,700 a year. 5 years later, they're making $60,000. If they maintain the same dollar amount contribution, they'd now be saving only 4.5% of income. But most people don't think in dollar amounts. They think in percentages. So they keep contributing 6%, which is now $3,600. Their savings went up by $900, but their income went up by $15,000. The extra $14,100 went somewhere. Rent increased because they moved to a nicer place. Car payment appeared because they bought new instead of used. Subscriptions multiplied. Restaurants upgraded. Each incremental decision made sense in isolation. The apartment was still affordable. The car payment fit the budget. But the aggregate effect was locking in higher fixed costs that made the next income increase feel just as tight as the previous level. Now project that pattern forward. By age 40, they're making $90,000. Still saving 6%. Now $5,400 a year. By 50, they're at $110,000, saving $6,600. They more than doubled their income from 25 to 50, but their annual savings only increased by $3,900 because the percentage stayed flat while their spending scaled linearly with earnings. Over that 25-year period, they saved roughly $125,000 in nominal dollars. Compounded at 7%, they've got about $270,000 at 50. Not nothing, but nowhere near the million plus they would have had if they'd banked even half of each raise and let their lifestyle lag their income growth. Compare that to someone who starts at the same $45,000, saves the same 6% initially, but makes one different decision. Every time they get a raise, they bank 50% of the increase before they adjust their lifestyle. First raise from $45,000 to $60,000, they increase their savings by $7,500 annually. Half of the $15,000 bump. New contribution rate, 9.4%. Next, raise from $60,000 to $75,000, they increase savings by another $7,500. Now at 12.9%. By the time they're making $90,000 at 40, they're saving 23% because they banked half of every raise. Their lifestyle improved along the way. They're spending more than they did at 25. But they're still spending less than their current income could support, which means they've got room to absorb shocks and they're building wealth faster than their income growth alone would predict. At age 50, same final income of $110,000. This person has been saving progressively higher percentages as they earned more. Over the same 25 years, they saved roughly $340,000 in nominal dollars. Compounded at 7%, they've got about $720,000. Same starting income, same ending income. 600% better outcome because they treated raises as wealth-building events instead of permission slips to increase consumption. The math is brutal and unforgiving. The person who let lifestyle scale with income worked just as hard, earned just as much, and ended up with less than half the wealth because they missed the compounding leverage that comes from widening the spread. Here's the part that should terrify you. According to a 2023 study from the National Institute on Retirement Security, 61% of working-age households have less than 1 year of income saved across all accounts. Not 1 year of expenses, 1 year of income. And these aren't just low earners. The study included households making 6 figures. High income didn't protect against undersaving because high income came with high fixed costs that left no room for the spread to develop. The financial plan said, earn more and you'll be fine. The mechanical reality is earn more and spend it all, and you'll be just as fragile as someone making half your salary. Here's the compound effect that really stings. Every dollar you spend today is a dollar that can't compound for the next 20 or 30 years. If you're 35 years old and you spend $5,000 on a vacation, that's not just $5,000 gone. At a 7% return over 30 years to retirement, that's $38,000 you just traded for a week of travel. Maybe worth it, maybe not. But the trade-off is real, and almost nobody thinks in those terms. The system is designed to make you think about affordability in terms of monthly payments and current cash flow. Can I afford this car payment? Can I afford this rent? The question is always framed in present tense. The actual question is, what is this costing me in future compounding, and is the trade worth it? But that framing doesn't sell products, so nobody uses it. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. It's just not designed for your outcome. Now let me show you what this looks like in practice, with 2 people who started at the exact same income level and ended up in completely different financial realities. Meet Keisha. 28 years old, working in marketing, making $62,000 a year in a mid-tier city. When she got her first real job at 23, making $48,000, she did what everyone told her to do. She contributed enough to her 401k to get the company match 4% of her salary. She rented an apartment she could afford, bought a reliable used car, lived reasonably. Over the next 5 years, she got promoted twice and changed jobs once. By 28, she'd increased her income by $14,000. Each time her salary went up, her lifestyle adjusted to match. The raises felt good for about 2 months, and then the new income level became the baseline, and she felt exactly as tight financially as she had before. She upgraded her apartment to a nicer neighborhood. She replaced the used car with a lease on a new SUV because the payment fit her budget and she wanted something reliable. She started shopping at Whole Foods instead of Aldi. She increased her travel budget because she was working hard and deserved it. None of these decisions felt reckless. She was still contributing 4% to retirement. She wasn't carrying credit card debt. She was doing what successful people in her income bracket do. But at 28, Keisha had $12,000 in her 401k and $3,000 in savings, a $15,000 net worth after 5 years of working. Her fixed costs had risen to match her income almost perfectly. She was making $62,000 and spending $58,000. The $4,000 annual spread was going into the retirement account, meeting the match, and that was it. She felt successful because her income was growing and she was checking the boxes. But she had no meaningful financial cushion and no path to change that without a dramatic income increase. She'd fallen into the trap of letting lifestyle track income in real time. Now meet Rodrigo. Same age as Keisha, same career, start at 23, making $48,000 in a similar cost of living city. He also contributed 4% initially to get the match. But Rodrigo's older brother had gone through a layoff at 31 and had to move back home because he had no savings despite making $70,000 a year. That stuck with Rodrigo. When he got his first raise from $48,000 to $55,000, he made a rule. Half the raise goes to savings before he adjusts anything else. The $7,000 bump meant he increased his 401k contribution by $3,500 annually. His new contribution rate jumped to 7.3%. The other $3,500 he let himself spend. He upgraded his furniture, ate out more, took a better vacation, but he didn't touch the banked half. He did this with every subsequent raise. By 28, making the same $62,000 as Keisha, Rodrigo was contributing 14% to his 401k. He'd banked half of every income increase along the way. His lifestyle had improved. He wasn't living like a 23-year-old anymore. But he was spending $49,000 while Keisha was spending $58,000, and that $13,000 annual difference was compounding. At 28, Rodrigo had $38,000 in his 401k and $15,000 in a high-yield savings account. $53,000 in net worth compared to Keisha's $15,000. Same age, same income, 3.5 times more wealth. The difference wasn't discipline in some heroic sense. Rodrigo wasn't depriving himself. He took vacations. He had a car. He lived comfortably. The difference was a single structural decision. Treat raises as wealth-building events, not consumption increase permissions. Keisha followed the cultural default, which is to let lifestyle rise with income. Rodrigo followed a mechanical rule that captured the spread before lifestyle could consume it. 5 years later, when both of them faced an unexpected job loss during an economic downturn, Keisha had to move back with family within 6 weeks. Rodrigo had a year of runway and could be selective about his next move. Same credentials, same income history, completely different outcomes based on one decision about what to do with raises. The pattern is simple, and almost nobody follows it. Income growth is an opportunity to widen the spread between earning and spending. Most people treat it as permission to narrow the spread by increasing consumption. And that single behavioral difference determines whether you build wealth or stay fragile, regardless of how much you make. If this breakdown is changing how you see income growth and lifestyle decisions, hit like. It helps me know which patterns to explore next. So what do you actually do with this information? Here's the playbook. Step 1. Calculate your actual spread right now, not your income. Take your gross income, subtract your taxes, subtract your fixed costs, subtract your variable spending. What's left? That's your wealth building capacity. If it's less than 15% of gross income, you've got a structural problem that more income won't fix. The solution isn't to earn more first and then save. The solution is to reduce fixed costs now, lock in the spread, and then scale it as income grows. Most people think they'll save when they make more. The data says they won't unless they practice saving at lower income levels first. Build the muscle memory when the stakes are lower. Step 2. Implement the 50% rule on every future raise. This is non-negotiable. Before you adjust your lifestyle, bank half of any income increase. Raise from $60,000 to $65,000, increase retirement contributions or savings by $2,500 annually before you touch anything else. The other $2,500 you can allocate however you want. Upgrade your living situation, travel more, whatever. But the first half gets locked into wealth building before you see it in your checking account. Automate this. The day your raise takes effect, increase your 401k contribution percentage or set up an automatic transfer to savings. If you don't automate it, you'll spend it and promise yourself you'll catch up later. You won't. Step 3. Separate your lifestyle baseline from your income ceiling. This is psychological, but critical. Your lifestyle should be based on a number below your current income, and that number should rise slower than your income grows. If you're making $70,000, live like you make 60. If you're making 100, live like you make 85. The gap is your compounding engine. The mistake people make is anchoring lifestyle to current income and then feeling deprived if they can't spend at the edge. Anchor to a lower number. Give yourself permission to increase that baseline occasionally, but treat the gap as sacred. That gap is your freedom buying itself. Step 4. Prioritize tax-advantaged accounts over taxable lifestyle upgrades. This is where high earners screw themselves without realizing it. You get a $10,000 raise, you increase your 401k by $3,000, You take home an extra $5,000 after taxes, and you spend it on a nicer apartment or car payment. You just traded tax-deferred compounding for taxable consumption. The correct move is increase the 401k by $7,000, take home $2,000, and spend that. You lowered your taxable income, maximized compounding space, and still got a small lifestyle bump. According to a 2024 Fidelity analysis, employees who maximized their 401k contributions had net worths 4.2 times higher after 15 years than employees at the same income levels who contributed only the match. Even accounting for lower take-home pay, the tax deferral and compounding leverage overwhelm the lifestyle difference. Step 5. Track your savings rate as your primary financial metric, not your income or net worth. Your savings rate is the percentage of gross income you're investing in wealth-building accounts. This is the number that predicts your trajectory. A 25-year-old with a 15% savings rate will reach financial independence decades before a 35-year-old with a 5% savings rate, even if the older person earns twice as much. Income is a vanity metric. Savings rate is the actual scorecard. Calculate it monthly. If it's trending down as your income rises, you're losing the game, even though it feels like winning. Step 6. Build lifestyle tiers, not lifestyle creep. This is the nuance most people miss. You should improve your quality of life as you earn more. The goal isn't misery, but improvements should come in discrete, intentional tiers, not continuous drift. At $60,000, you live at Tier 1. At $80,000, you move to Tier 2 with specific planned upgrades. At $100,000, Tier 3. But Tier 2 doesn't mean spending $80,000. It means spending $65,000 with better allocation. Tier 3 means spending $75,000 with more margin. Each tier improves lifestyle while maintaining or widening the spread. Lifestyle creep is unconscious spending that tracks income in real time. Lifestyle tiers are conscious decisions about when and how to upgrade while protecting compounding capacity. The pattern across all of this is the same. Income is a tool for building wealth, not a scorecard for how much you're allowed to consume. The system wants you confused about this because confused people spend at the edge of their capacity and stay dependent on the next raise, the next promotion, the next income bump that never quite delivers the security they're chasing. Now, here's the mindset shift that makes all of this sustainable. Comparing your income to national averages is financial self-harm disguised as self-assessment. Those benchmarks don't account for cost of living, debt load, family situation, health costs, tax efficiency, or any of the variables that actually determine outcomes. A person making $55,000 in a low-cost area with no debt and a 15% savings rate is in a better financial position than someone making $130,000 in a high-cost city with student loans, a mortgage at the top of their approval, and a 3% savings rate. The income comparison says the second person is winning. The wealth accumulation trajectory says they're losing badly. The goal isn't to make more than the average for your age. The goal is to widen the spread between what you earn and what you spend. Invest that spread in assets that compound and protect the compounding from interference for as long as possible. That's the entire game. Income is one input. It's not even the most important input. Your savings rate, your fixed cost structure, your tax efficiency, your investment timeline, these matter more than the number on your W-2. But you weren't taught to optimize for those, because optimizing for those makes you a less profitable customer. The uncomfortable truth is that most people will spend their entire careers chasing income benchmarks and feeling inadequate when they hit them, because the benchmarks don't deliver the security they promise. You can't earn your way out of a structural spending problem. You can't out-income lifestyle creep. The math doesn't work. The only path is to decouple consumption from income, lock in the spread, and let compounding do what it does when you give it time and don't interfere. I break down a different piece of how money actually works every week. Subscribe if you want the full picture. The income comparison industry wants you focused on what you make because it keeps you running on a treadmill that goes nowhere. But your freedom comes from what you keep and what you do with it after everyone takes their cut.